Glad you're with us today for the Lyons Share radio program. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us. Mitch Lyons, the founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. You can always go to the website to learn more. Great website. A lot of great information. There's Mitch's book on there, The Retirement of Steel. There's Mitch's film on there, The Retirement Deception. It's all available to you just by going to the website, MitchLyonsWealth.com. Is Lyons spelled like the Detroit Lions?
I've thought about doing that. No, it's Lyons. However, I've kind of thought if I'd ever played for the Lions, I thought it would have been a great marketing shtick. But unfortunately, I never played for the Lions.
Yeah.
I grew up a Lions fan, So back when they were going, I think it was 2008. They were 0-16. I was on a sports show a lot of the time, and the DJ coined me Mitch Detroit Lions, and 0-16 Lions. Mitch Detroit 0-16 Lions.
Yeah.
And now they're doing a little better, in the recent years. So not as much shame in being a Lions fan.
All right, we're talking about the kind of four pillars of retirement, if you will: income, growth, preservation, and liquidity. And one of the things I think is really interesting, we're talking about income first to start with, Mitch. But if you think about growth, income, let's say growth, protection, as you said, protection, growth, income, and liquidity. If I'm going from the bank, what can I get out of those from the bank? I can't get all four, can I, out of the bank?
Typically not. No, you're going to, obviously, liquidity, you can get liquidity. You can, stick your money in checking or savings, or maybe buy a short-term CD so it's available to you, in short order, should you need it. So that's a good spot. But if you start talking about, income, I guess you can live on some income from your checking or savings, but it's not going to be a real good or anywhere near what you can
yeah.
Your passbook savings isn't going to pay you a whole lot, but there's better options out there to create income. Market growth, you're not going to get that through bank products typically.
So really
it's
protection
a piece
and
of
liquidity. Yeah, protection and liquidity is what you get from the bank.
Yeah, it's a piece of the pie, but it's not. It doesn't bring all of those things together for you.
And you think of the insurance world, kind of the same scenario. That's really not a liquid category, but they can give you some growth in certain categories, certain areas, and then they have protection, obviously. And then you go to the market. Well, there's no doubt where you're hoping for growth. You can get liquidity from it, but it's also one of those where the protection side is lacking. That's the challenge. So all of these different areas that you get money from can't give you all the growth, protection, the income, and liquidity. So let's talk about income. People need income to retire. It's really kind of where to start. But I think of Social Security because I know that's what I have or will have if I start it in 2026. But I don't have a pension. So what are kind of the average, or where does income come from? We have to create it ourselves, I guess.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that you can create income from your nest egg. It can be a dividend-paying portfolio, right? Now, having said that, you're obviously subject to those companies continuing to pay their dividends. That doesn't always happen. Dividend rates can go down, and then you're dealing with stock market volatility on your principal in those situations as well. But oftentimes we'll use income annuities. You mentioned annuities; those are some people have a negative slant on annuities. Oh, I'm not going to get the return that I can get in the market. Well, that's true, but you're not going to get the volatility you get in the market. It's a method to protect what you have, still tie your return, to the market if you want, say the S&P or the NASDAQ, have downside protection. But again, from an income standpoint, you can create oftentimes a much higher proportionate amount of income from an annuity than you can from that dividend portfolio or the bank products.
So I think one of the things, and we were talking about it, I have the ability, as I was born in 1959, which means I just turned 66. So I have the ability in September of 2026 to start Social Security if I want to. That's my full retirement age. Born in 1959, it's 66 in 10 months. Now, if you're born, 2 months later than me, now you're 67, and it's a 1960 or later. Your full retirement is 67. But this is a big decision for a lot of people, Mitch. It's over $1 million decision, Social Security decision for a married couple. But Social Security, you start at 62, you start at 70, you start anywhere in between. How do you help people maximize that? Because maximizing to me just says wait till 70, but that's not necessarily the right time for people to take it.
Well, it's not, because everybody's situation is different, right? What are your income needs? What do you have in place? So, what's your longevity? What's your health? There's so many things. Are you married? Are you single? Was your wife a high earner? Did your husband make less than you? There's all those factors because you've got death benefits in play and stuff. And that's really when we go through the retirement steel process, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at all those factors. We're dumping all of your financial info into the top of this thing, grinding it out, determining what is the best time for you specifically to turn on income. When's the best time for your spouse to turn theirs on? It's not always the same answer. If you're going to delay, how are we going to get you the income you need? If you want to retire at 62 and you're not going to turn income until 70, how are we getting you the income to get you to the point where you can take that higher amount at age 70? So all those things come into play. Every situation's different. There is no one answer fits all type deal. So that's part of the whole analysis we do. And I think it's a great exercise for people to go through because oftentimes Social Security is a complicated animal. There are a lot of moving parts to that Social Security decision. And, a lot of times people are flying by the seat of their pants and making that decision. And it's oftentimes not the correct one.
So you think about it, most people, when they come to sit down with you, Mitch, have their money kind of in the IRA 401k world. I mean, it's in the market. It's all about growth. And that is important because we know we need that. But we also might have a 30-year retirement. We better have some protection in there to make sure that the markets go psychotic, that we're still going to be okay. And that's why I think the number one concern of retirees is the fear of outliving their money. But that's your process. The retirement of steel process is putting everything together for that. So here's I guess if Social Security or pensions are not enough that we just talked about, how else can we create lifetime income?
Yeah, again, dividend portfolios are one way, and oftentimes people think of that. I'll just invest in these blue chip, utility companies that churn out this dividend. That's one way. Another way, which can be a really effective way, is using income annuities as a method to create the income you need, and oftentimes those will provide a higher proportionate amount of income than you could safely take out of a traditional stock portfolio or stock bond portfolio. So that's certainly something we look at. And really, it starts at the beginning of that first conversation, finding out where you are, what you're comfortable with, right? We put you through a risk tolerance questionnaire, an analyzer to see what you're comfortable with. We don't ever want to put somebody in a position that they're taking on more risk than what they're comfortable with. And that's different for everybody. But when we look at income and what your needs are, we want to make sure that we have some income we know is going to keep coming regardless of what market volatility brings. Okay. And that, again, Social Security, that's going to be safe from market volatility. Pension income is going to be safe from market volatility. And so would income created from an annuity. So that's, and it's not for everybody, every situation. Some folks don't need the income. There's no reason to use an income annuity if they don't necessarily need the income, if they've got enough pension or Social Security income. But that is one tool that we'll oftentimes use to help people bridge that gap. We talked earlier about, maybe do you delay on Social Security? Well, oftentimes an income annuity will provide that gap money to get you to where you can take the higher amount of Social Security. So we factor all that in. And again, every situation is different. But those are some tools that we can use to help people bridge that gap.
All right. Final pillar was liquidity that we talked about: growth, protection, income, and liquidity. Liquidity. We need some liquidity even during our working years, but might be more important when we don't have a paycheck coming in to have some liquidity. How do you look at the pillar of liquidity?
I always like to have ideally, I'd like to have everybody have at least a year of their monthly, their annual expenses kind of set aside short term. I'm not saying it can't be invested. It might be a combination of, maybe it's in CDs, right? Maybe some 3, 6 month, 9 month CDs kind of laddered out there. But I don't want people to having to go raid their IRA, for example, that stock market that's in the market. When the market's down, right? That's the last time you want to start pulling dollars out of there. So don't want to put people in that position. So we always want to have some. We don't want to be overly conservative, right? You don't want to put all your money in cash and gold and sit it in your your basement. But you do want a measure of liquidity. So when that windstorm tears your roof up, or the engine goes out, your tranny goes out on your car, you don't necessarily want to go raiding retirement accounts. So let's let them do their thing. They're for the long-term money, and let's keep some money liquid so that it can take care of some of those short-term when life happens stuff.